did now.
Wait, what?
We are streaming. It'll pop up for people in a second. So, wow. Look at us. We're finally famous. We made it, guys. We're live. Oh my gosh, it works. Hello, everyone.
If
Welcome
we get
to our
20
first ever live
people,
stream.
What up, guys?
If we get
We
20
made
people,
it.
what, Chris?
if we
We
get
made it. We're
20
live.
people, we'll do a giveaway.
I
That
don't
Wild
know
will
why
sponsor.
you're obsessed with
No, I
spending
do
money.
have a gift card to a movie theater. Just saying. It's not
A
impossible.
movie
future
theater?
giveaway.
Like, what does that mean?
To a local movie theater.
Oh, okay. Cool. That'll work.
Yeah. It's a gift card to it, and there's not one in this area. And I just happen to have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I was like, wait, a movie theater? Is it some rundown, like, small, or it could be some small, like, indie theater, you know? Where they show,
No,
like,
I think it's an AMC card.
I got you.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's
Well,
AMC.
Either way, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another special episode of Launch Codes Football. I am Chris W.
I'm Chris P.
And I'm Chelsea, unfortunately bringing up the rear like normal.
Bringing up the rear. Today is our first live streamed episode. Let's go. We did it.
Let's get it.
Here. And
We made
for
it,
those
boys.
of you listening on Spotify or whatever you do, this is just another normal episode. So sorry for not being special for you guys, but to us, this is a momentous opportunity. So
I
how
concur.
are we all doing today? Chris, Chelsea, how's it going?
Doing well. It's like the dead season of football right now until, mini camps and stuff start up, so.
Hey, you
That's
never
true.
know. Something might happen. Aaron Rodgers might break a knee this year.
That would be truly unfortunate for Jets fans, actually. I think they'd set the city on fire if that happened.
And then you would blame the turf.
Oh, right. Because that's
Yeah.
what we do now.
I mean,
Right,
that's
right.
what Messi does, but that's a different sport.
He
Well.
blames the turf, really?
Yeah,
What
he
would you
refuses
do?
to play on turf.
Ooh. That sounds lame, is what I have to say
Well,
about that.
It is different, but yeah, I'm excited for this. Although
Yeah, this is fun.
It does. What we have today is something different. Thankfully, Chelsea's husband was able to suggest this, and his perspective was if everyone's team was basically just thrown into a big draft, how it is in Madden or how it is, how basically it's a fantasy draft, and you throw in all the players that are good and bad, all in one big draft order, and each team repicks. We're the top 5 people, even in fantasy football, for what is it called, Dynasty? What are the 5 top players you would keep?
From each
for-
team.
From each team. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
In a hypothetical redraft, basically.
Hey, you never know. If they keep changing onside kicks, then you never know. You can only hope.
No, but I'll have you know that this concept actually is not a new concept. They do this in hockey when they do expansion teams. When they expanded into, when the Kraken came around a few years ago, they did this. Every team got, I think it was 3 or 5 or 7, some amount of players that they could protect. It might have been 4. I don't remember exactly. It was less than 10 that they could protect, and everyone else got thrown into a draft pool, basically. So this is not a new concept.
5
This happens
top
in other
players
sports
you would
leagues.
keep. Yeah, I think
From
we
each
should propose this
team.
for the Panthers. I think we should disband and then, put it in Raleigh or somewhere, and then, have a redraft of all the good players in the world.
Well, we can't move the Panthers to Raleigh. They're doing hundreds of millions of dollars of stadium renovations. Don't forget.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tepper
Are we not
can
happy
afford
about that,
this.
or is that a
Dude, it's going to look sick for real.
Yeah.
For those living in Charlotte, I will be praying for your tax rates to stay the same.
Oh, yeah,
But
dude.
that won't
Tax is
happen.
about to be rough.
I mean, unless the owner can pay for it. Like Tepper can pay
Oh
for it.
yeah,
so the city doesn't have
Tepper will
You
surely
know,
pay
Tepper,
for
that very good, mild-tempered soul.
Also,
Remember, he's spiteful because he'll go to if you say something on your restaurant, he might swing on by and say, "Hey, what did you say about the draft?"
Maybe
So
he
just
was
saying.
asking for genuine advice. Maybe he
Was he
just didn't
though?
know. He was like, guys, I don't freaking know. I don't know who to pick.
Yeah, I'm sure he
Do
went to
we believe
Yelp
that
and
though?
you
Do
know.
we?
No, okay. Also, guys, sorry. I had to cut my camera. I think the bandwidth was just messing up here. So anyone watching, that's why I suddenly disappeared. But I think we're still good now.
New
So
Jersey
Wow, just
Wi-Fi these
me,
days.
huh?
I'm
Just
sorry.
me.
Um,
Abandon me, why don't you?
we're not trying to, but it's okay. But yeah, I think we're gonna. I think the new stadium could actually be fun. Not gonna lie. I feel like it. I
I
don't
think it's
know.
gonna look pretty cool for real.
I
I've seen some of
agree.
the renderings. It looked cool.
I'm kind of sad they can't add a roof. I get why, but like, it would be really nice to have a roof. Not gonna
Said they
lie.
can't add a roof.
It gets hot down there.
It really does, and I'm like, I. And also, it would just help. I mean, I feel like we don't get that bad of weather, honestly, to like warrant needing a roof like Minnesota, maybe. But it would still be
Yeah.
nice to have one, just to, I don't know, just to make like life a little bit fancier, a little for the stadium. Because to be real, like pre-renovations, it doesn't look that great. It doesn't look terrible. It just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of old.
Just looks mid, one would say.
Yeah, like, and then you go to all
Don't
these other
know.
stadiums, or you see other stadiums, and it's like, oh, we have this high tech, I don't know, whatever, like SoFi, you know?
Yeah, I mean, just depends on the atmosphere in the state. I mean, look at somewhere like Texas. I mean, Texas, it's like 112 degrees every day in the summer. You know, the Cowboys have a roof, so do the Texans. So,
True.
I mean, understandable. So
yeah.
talking about Cowboys though,
Uh
I think we will be doing the NFC East division.
Yeah, we're going to break it up by division, so one division a week.
So today we will be working on the NFC East. All these teams were put into a draft and you had to keep 5 players, who would you pick? Wiles, why don't you start us off?
the NFC East. Okay, so we're starting with the Cowboys, right? So,
Yeah.
Yep.
okay. I I think for me, it's kind of hard to have a particular order. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna put Micah Parsons as the guy you got to keep for obvious reasons. Because if you don't, like, what are you doing? You're kind of throwing. Not gonna lie. Um, and because you just look and see, he is such a huge impact player. It's no joke. Like, games he is in, man, he can ruin quarterbacks. Apparently not Jordan Love, but he can ruin other guys.
Oof.
Oof. I'm sorry. I will say the only thing with Micah Parsons that I'm kind of like, dude, I mean, I get it, but like, he talks a lot of smack, but then like, I feel like he also complains a lot. I don't know. That's just like what I see. But also, he probably complains as much as the other guys, just he happens to be the star. So
He has a
kinda
bigger
gets amplified.
platform.
He also has a podcast, and that's where he probably rants the most. But also, who
Okay,
doesn't have
so
a
you're
podcast?
telling me that we have to have Micah Parsons on our podcast, right?
I
That's what
think
I'm
we
hearing.
could easily get. Look, I think we have a better chance of getting him than Skip Bayless does. Personally,
Well, one of you guys ought to reach out to him. He should be our first guest.
Wait, Micah or Skip?
Micah.
Either one would be a fascinating.
I mean, either one would be fine with me, but, whichever their preferences is fine.
So just to draft him, and yet again they didn't. But I would ask him, about his offense. Like, don't get me wrong, but like their defense is great, but their offense lacks. And so I would ask him a few things. Like, what's your thought about Dak Prescott? Him having a no trade clause. Ask him the things of like, what do you see in mindset of playoffs? Because it seems to be like y'all uphold your defense, but your offense seems to be lacking at times when it needs to be. So, but those are things that I'd poke him at. I would respect him, but his offense needs some work.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, looking at the Cowboys just on paper, they lost, almost everyone. Like,
They
on
went all
paper,
in
they look
last year.
not good. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
But Wiles, why don't you? Was it you or was it Chris?
Yeah,
Which one of
it
you
was
was
me.
given your people? Was it you, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else do you have?
So I picked Micah Parsons as 1. I'm gonna say Diggs as a 2, because he is just an invaluable piece on that defense. It kind of sucks. Last year we didn't really get to see him perform because of his injury early on and that put him out for the year after the second game of the year. And I remember, Chris, you predicted that was going to impact them quite a bit. And I don't know. I mean, it's still they still had a very good defense, but who knows what he could have done against Green Bay, or in the playoffs. So Diggs is my 2. I think CeeDee Lamb should also be very highly protected. They should really seek to keep him because he is really good. I know sometimes he drops or gets drops, and that's not fun. And he does, I don't know. To me, CeeDee Lamb's just a really good receiver. And he is a guy that any team would trade for to win a championship. Zach Martin, of course, you got to keep offensive line, and he's one of the best. You need offensive line to be successful. And then you've also got, in my opinion, maybe it's controversial, whatever, I think Dak Prescott you need to try and keep. I know that some Cowboys fans are not a fan of him because they feel like he does not get them W's in the playoffs. They know he's a good regular season QB, and I know he may not ever get you a Super Bowl, but you do have to admit, you know that if you do have Dak, you've got a decent QB. And to be real, how many teams would trade almost everything or a lot for a guy, 3/4 as good as Dak Prescott or as good as him? I think when he's on it, he's top 10. But the problem is sometimes in these playoff games, and it's not always his fault, he's not doing much. I think last year's playoff game, he did start to come back, but you can also argue that he put them in the hole. It really was just a weird thing, but I don't know. In my opinion, you gotta keep Dak because even though he doesn't get you the playoff wins that maybe you wanted, I think that it's more than necessary to have a guy like him to compete. So yeah, that's my 5. What do you guys think?
No.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I think out of that list, I would agree with you. Now, my ranking is very different. I didn't think of the number 1 player. I just top 5. My thing is, so for those who, when we go through my list, but I am surprised you left one person out that I have on my list that you left out, which I was very surprised you didn't add him. But I think I would agree with the 4 that you have with Dak, CD, Micah Parsons, and Trevon Diggs. I mean, Micah Parsons obviously when people were starting that in your draft of he has attitude problem, I don't see that. I mean, look at Trevon Diggs. He's a young player. Yes, he might be injured from last year, but I mean, how can you let him go into, in a way of free agency, quote unquote, or draft? CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's a great wide receiver. You have to keep some experience just in case, to throw to. So, and then Dak Prescott, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, people are saying the QBR rating, he's number 2. And yes, I give a lot of flack to Dak, and there are times when he hasn't performed in the playoffs. But am I going to risk getting a bad quarterback or having a quarterback that works with the system? I mean, I understand that. So I think this is a good list. What do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree, except for Dak. I have 3 of the guys that you have as well. My thing with Dak is that if I'm going to keep a quarterback, I want to keep a guy who's proven. And Dak is very proven in the regular season, but he is notoriously known for having a terrible postseason just persona. And if I was going to save a guy, I would almost rather not save him and be able to get someone else. Because I think at this point, people know who Dak is, right? Dak's probably a top 10 quarterback. I mean, if not higher, at least during the regular season. But I mean, until he proves it in the postseason, people just aren't going to take him seriously. That is just the unfortunate reality of it all. So me personally, I wouldn't keep him. But I can definitely see the argument being a top 10 quarterback in the regular season. I just think for the postseason, it's just, I don't know. You kind of know what you're going to get. He has a track record, and you've seen him perform, and he's a veteran now, so it's like he's probably not going to get any better or any worse at this point. So you kind of know what you have, and if what he has is not enough for you, I mean, I could very much see an organization moving on from him.
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's good.
But yeah, Chris, what do you have on your list?
So I have basically the four that you have. Wiles, Dak Prescott is my one that I thought of. Yes, I give him a lot of flack, but I think with Dak, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not going to take a risk in the draft. And what if I get a low draft pick for a QB? He is proven, and yes, he might not show up right now in the postseason, but still, like, he is proven. Like, would I rather have him or Daniel Jones? I'm going to pick Dak, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm not going to
by
risk
100.
having the risk of getting a lower QB in a draft sort of situation when I have other players, if not in the line. I know you pick Zach Martin, but like, he is an older lineman that will probably in a couple of years won't be there. And so, like, in my mindset, I'm like, I gotta pick young dudes. So I picked Dak Prescott. He's my QB. I picked CeeDee Lamb. He's gonna be my wide receiver that will probably be able to help any sort of wide receivers that are struggling for my draft. I picked Micah Parsons to keep. I mean, he is the cornerstone to the Cowboys defense. And then I picked Trevon Diggs as a great corner that is injured right now. Hopefully he will get better, and I think that he's a pivotal person on cornerback. But the last person that I'm surprised you didn't pick is Darren Bland. He's the other. Yeah. He is the second cornerback for the Cowboys, and he had 9 interceptions. And I think he would be, and he's very young. I think he'd be a great asset for this team, at least for cornerbacks. The rest of them, I mean, I've looked at DeMarcus Lawrence. I looked at a few some of the line, and I was like, these guys are older. They're going out. If I want people that are trying to come in and are proven, I think Darren Bland would be a great asset for the Cowboys.
That's true.
And he even stepped up when Trevon Diggs got hurt. So that's why I'm very surprised you didn't pick him. I mean, having 9 interceptions and proven, and he is only 25 years old, I think would be best for the Cowboys. So those are my top 5.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good point about Bland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bland did step up, honestly. Probably. So it's like, I wonder, would having Diggs late in the year have helped? Don't know, actually. I definitely think them losing Stephon Gilmore was not great.
Didn't do him any favors.
Especially since Jerry Jones is like, let's go all in this offseason. What has he done? Nothing. He said we're going all in.
He re-signed Ezekiel Elliott. Let's give him some credit, okay?
Yes, and lost the bid for a Saquon.
Yeah, that was his plan all along, obviously.
Oh my gosh. But I think that's all of us, right, for the Cowboys. We can move on to the next team here.
Well, Chelsea.
Chelsea. I have a couple for me. Yeah, so I'm going to be honest. I neglected to remember about Bland when I was making my list. So if I were to go back and do it, I would probably also include him. Now, I have not done a lot of film study on him. I don't know a ton about him. I don't know if he's the kind of guy that either gets an interception or gives up a big play, because if that's the case, I don't know if I would pick him. But I just personally don't know enough about him and his play style to make that assumption. So I'm just not going to include him on my list. But his interception total last year was crazy. So including him is definitely a fair point. So for me, CeeDee Lamb is obvious. Micah Parsons is obvious to me. Those two were unquestionable, basically. Trayvon Diggs was my third. And then the Cowboys, they just lost so many people, and they just didn't really sign that many people. I mean, if we're being completely honest and unbiased and looking at what they have, they just didn't really do much.
Say it,
and
Chelsea.
because of
Say
that,
it. You know you want to.
their roster, took a big hit, to be honest. I mean, I really don't think now this is just based on paper. I'm not talking about practical. I'm not talking about play. I'm not talking about when they actually go out on the field. I'm saying just looking at the roster on paper right now, they just don't have a lot of people that, catch my eye, to be honest. And, that is just the nature of football, right? You're going to have peaks and valleys. You're going to have to rebuild at some points, and you're going to be stacked at some points, and that's just how it is. But, I mean, because of that, I actually ended up selecting a couple of veterans just because I feel like if I was going to do a draft, it can help to have a couple of veterans on a brand new team to help stabilize the environment. So I actually, for my last two, I selected Zach Martin, which, we kind of all know what's gone on with him and, his injuries and all this stuff. But when bro is healthy, I mean, he is a top player at his position, even still. So that's, under the assumption that he's healthy, that I would take him, even though he's older. And then the other one, I picked Eric Kendricks. I know he's not, like a top tier linebacker at this point against other guys, but he was really good for a really long time, and he was really good with Minnesota. So I would take those two veterans, honestly, mostly due to the fact that the team just doesn't have a lot of talent, and if I were to build a team, I would want a couple of veterans to help stabilize it. So, like, the top three are unquestionable to me. The other two are arguable. I mean, I could definitely put younger players or people they just drafted in there for sure and, make an argument for it. But I'm going to go with those guys just because I know their track record. I know they've had success. I know that when they play well, they're really good. And I know at one point they've been top at their position at some point in their career, if not, top 5, top 10, which reassures me. So that's what I would do. I know it's a bit controversial, but...
Wait. Hold on a second. You're trying to say that you're putting Eric Kendricks above DeMarcus Lawrence. If you're talking about people that are great players, you're putting Eric Kendricks over DeMarcus Lawrence, who has been a great player for the Cowboys. That's crazy.
I just had a feeling, bro.
That's crazy. That's disrespectful.
I mean, to be fair, dude, I'm picking between aging veterans. I mean,
he's the same age as Eric.
Yeah, but they're both aging veterans. I mean, both of them are good. Like, if I could pick a sixth player, I'd probably pick DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, I just ended up picking Kendricks because I just think linebacker is important. I mean.
Fair.
I mean, you have Micah Parsons, though. You have
but think of how good I would be if I had both of them. Like I said, I know it's controversial. Like, I know. There are definitely other people I could take. I just don't get good vibes from this team. I'm gonna be completely honest.
I think I'll be honest. This team, I think it's a good team. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm like with this, like their line, also with their wide receivers. Yes, I mean they don't have like 4 wide receivers like the Eagles.
They have one.
But that's, I mean, you can say that with the Commanders. You can say that with. I can't even say that to the Giants. They're
Giants
far
have 2.
ahead. You're trying to tell me Slayton's better?
No, I'm talking about Jalen Hyatt, and I'm talking about the guy they just took in the draft.
We're predicting
Malik Neighbors.
Oh, but that's the thing. We're not predicting. If I had to do that, I would.
Yes, it's a projection. I mean, I know that they don't have a lot of on-field production at this point, but I mean, I think Jalen Hyatt's going to take a step forward this year, and I think that the guy that they took in the draft, Malik Neighbors, I think Neighbors is going to be really good. So I mean, he proved it in college. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a huge expectation for him to come into the NFL and be good. Like, I think he's going to be really good.
I'm shaking my head in disapproval. I know you can't.
I mean,
see me, but
I guess we'll see. I mean, obviously, this division is just kind of, mediocre across the board, at least on paper, disregarding the Eagles. But I mean, yeah, I mean, if I were to do more film study and stuff, on the Cowboys, I would probably end up picking, a couple of people that, are rookies and have potential. But I mean, just looking at the list and just eyeballing it, it just doesn't really impress me. I'm going to be honest.
Dang. All right. Let's go. We love controversy.
It's just all wrong. It's okay.
It's all wrong. All right, Chris. Well, know what?
Let's move on to the Commanders
and
check them out, because I think I might get some flack for this, but it is what it is.
Okay, yeah, Chris. So if we're all wrong, what's your Commanders list?
Okay, the top 3, and not to be in this way, but of course you're gonna have Scary Terry, right? Like, you're gonna have a wide receiver who's is crazy and is a good wide receiver. And my second one, I think that they stole from the Panthers, is Jeremy Chin. I think he is a good young player that has potential, and they just gave up on him. And third is Jonathan Allen. He's a great player that is always putting pressure on the QB, always out there. And I really just wanted to leave that there. I really just wanted to say those 3. Yes, they took Jaden Daniels. Yes, they took Luke McCaffrey. But here's the thing. Am I going to literally pick these players and keep them, and they're just by chance? And that's the thing. They drafted them. We have no idea. Jaden Daniels might break his leg tomorrow, and it could be that he won't touch the football for another year. Luke McCaffrey, he might drop the ball 5 times, and he might get sent to the bench. We don't know. So would I rather pick the people that are experienced compared to someone who they just drafted? And yes, they are young, but I honestly just wanted the top 3 from this team: Terry McLaurin, Jeremy Chin, Jonathan Allen. Because the other 4 and 5 for Jaden Daniels and Luke McCaffrey, we have no idea. That's like predicting, the Giants wide receiver to literally go off. Like, we don't know. And I would rather pick a veteran who's proven himself against good cornerbacks, against good players, than someone who's just played in college. Like, so that's my hot take with the Washington Commanders, is the top 3.
So I see how it is. When I take veterans on the Cowboys, it's controversial. But when you take them on Washington, it's okay.
You pick 30-year-olds or older. That's like,
because their team is bad.
That's like picking LeBron James and Anthony Davis in basketball and saying they're better.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of people would probably still take LeBron James, if we're being honest.
I would.
For a franchise, we'll see.
For a franchise, no. But generally, that's not the point. I agree with most of the people you picked for Washington.
Football podcast. Remember this.
Football podcast. You should.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with
tickets.
Yeah, I agree with a couple of them. I mean, for my list, I'm including Jaden Daniels because I think Jaden Daniels is going to be good. I don't think he's going to be the best quarterback in the class, but I think he's going to be good, and I think he's going to be better than anything else they've had up to this point. But I mean, like you're saying, Chris, a lot of the things with him are projections, and I mean, ultimately for him, it's going to come down to, the success he has as a rookie, and it's going to come down to if their O-line can play better. Because, let's be honest, if Sam Howell had a mediocre O-line, he would have probably had a pretty good interception to touchdown ratio instead of being even. But unfortunately, he did not, and their line was notoriously bad, even worse than the Panthers, which is saying something. So I have Jaden Daniels. I'm keeping Scary Terry. Also, I think that one is obvious. I'm going to keep Frankie Louvu. I feel like he's super underrated and played really well at the Panthers. So I agree with you, Chris, there. I'm going to keep Deron Payne instead of the defensive tackle that you took. I mean, I think they're both good. So, I mean, I think, whichever is fine. Jonathan Allen's really good too. But I'm going to go with Payne. And then my last one is kind of controversial. I'm going to keep Emmanuel Forbes Jr., the corner that they recently drafted. I think he's going to be pretty good in the league. So I'm going to keep him, even though he's unproven. He had a good track record in college. So I'm going to stick with him, I think. So a little bit different than yours, but Also, a couple of similarities for sure.
Okay. Nothing too crazy there, in my opinion. For
Didn't he
me,
play
for
last year?
watch. Who? What?
Forbes Jr.
He might. I can't remember if he was drafted last year or the year before.
He was drafted last year. He had 1 interception.
Yeah, it might have been the year before. I'm still going to keep him because he's a young corner, and corners are hard to develop. So
Look, that 1 was bigger than Bland's 9. Just think of it that way, okay?
oof.
Which one was truly more meaningful?
I mean, he still had a pretty good rookie year, only having 1 interception. So
It's true.
I would still keep him.
So, for me, okay, I'm going to be real with you. This roster is hard to dissect, like, who should be kept first. So it's really hard for me to rank 1 through 5. So I feel like this could be interchangeable. I think I think McLaurin is one of the top that you definitely need to keep. He is a player, man. He can make some incredible catches. Oh my gosh. Jonathan Allen's another guy that you really need to keep as well, because I mean he's just a good presence. He's not super old. He's still got a lot left in the tank. Brian Robinson, I think he's kind of underrated. People don't talk about him much, but I think
I agree.
Brian Robinson will be pretty decent this year. Not gonna lie. I think a good running back is always helpful, and Brian Robinson, I think he'll pop off. Frankie Louvu's a baller, man. He's really good on defense, and honestly, I think for the Panthers, losing him was a big mistake. Letting him go to Washington was no good. But I think that's a huge pickup for Washington. Even though he's not like a nationally known name, he's pretty dang good. I am a believer in Logan Thomas. I don't
Wow.
know why no
Okay,
one
I'm gonna
talks
leave
much
now.
about him, but he is.
Chris, is
not
that more
bad.
controversial than my Cowboys picks?
Your Cowboys picks were still bad.
All right, you're just a hater.
Logan Thomas is a solid player, man. And you know what's forgotten in this league? Tight ends, man. Except Travis Kelce. But even him, he got more famous than Mahomes because of Taylor Swift. I'm not saying he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, where's
this
the
year.
lie? Travis
I-
Kelce is the man, so.
He is great. Don't get me wrong. He is a great player. I'm not saying he wasn't famous before. No duh. But I'm just saying he became uber famous after that. But tight ends, they
little
get
buddy.
forgotten.
Yeah,
not to be
I don't
misplay,
know if I would
but
keep
he's
Logan
on the
Thomas, to be
49ers,
honest.
by the
I
way.
mean, I think you've kind of seen from him what you're going to get. I think you kind of just know, what you're going to get with him. And he's a veteran. So, I mean, again, it's the argument. It's the veteran's argument. It's like, well, would you rather keep a young, unproven guy that, has a lot of potential, or would you rather keep a middle to, high-aged veteran? It just, kind of depends on your preferences and, what you prefer. So, I mean, it just depends on a lot of factors. It depends on, your play style, how you want to set up your team, your veterans, etc.
Right.
So it's definitely an interesting conversation to have. I mean, I can definitely see an argument for it. There are a lot of mediocre tight ends in the league. So, but me personally, I probably would not, but that's just me. I know it's, up to personal preference or whatever.
Look, they did
Let's go ahead and move on to, what was the next team? The Giants. All right. I'll go first with the Giants. I'll just put it out there. I know some of this is going to be controversial, but we'll try our best here. So for the Giants, what I have for my 5, this is probably starting out relatively controversial. This is probably the most controversial one on the list. I am going to go with Jalen Hyatt. He was a high draft pick for them last year out of the University of Tennessee. I know he hasn't really done much this year. However, I have high hopes for him, and I know they're still stuck with Daniel Jones, but I think that he could have a breakout year, and I think he could be a flex sleeper for fantasy, which is super interesting. And then the next one that I have Malik Neighbors. Again, it's kind of the same argument. Do you keep an aging veteran, or do you keep someone that's proven? For me, I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors has proven enough in college for me to confidently take him in the league if there was a redraft. So I would do that. My third one, I would take Dexter Lawrence. I really don't think this is much of an argument at all. I think that he is really good. He's a top defensive tackle in the league for sure. He posts really good stats, so I'm definitely keeping him. I definitely would not want to get rid of him. That is for sure. And then 4, I'm going to go with Brian Burns. This was a very controversial trade between the Giants and the Panthers during the offseason. Yeah, I mean, if you're a Panthers fan, you're just hurting watching this trade, watching Brian Burns get shipped off to the Giants for basically nothing, which was just, the Panthers' MO. That's just kind of what they're known for. But I would definitely keep him. I mean, I know he had a down year last year, which, I mean, he still had, over 10 sacks, I think. So down year is kind of, I can only take you seriously for so long. I mean, he still had a great year. So, I mean, he's going to be really good with the Giants, especially on that D-line with Dexter. I think that they're going to be pretty solid. I'm not going to lie. And then for my 5th one, I am going to go with Isaiah Simmons. This might be controversial to some. To my husband, probably not, because he is a big Clemson fan. But, he was in Arizona. They couldn't really pick a position for him. It was just, they just kind of were trying to plug him in here and there, whatever. And it didn't really work, and he couldn't really establish himself anywhere. But it just didn't really work out for him, and he ended up getting traded to the Giants, which I actually really liked because they have a lot of holes on their team, and I think, he could really solidify himself in one position and just kind of show people, like, hey, like, I have real talent, I deserve to be here, like, this is my position, I'm good at it, like, let me show you. So I really do like him. I would keep him. He's young, he's athletic, he can play multiple positions, he's had college success. He hasn't had a ton of NFL success yet to this point. However, I do think that it's not impossible. I think that, he still has a lot of room to flourish, and I think that, it'll go good for him. I think he'll, rebound, and we'll see him come through. So I'm excited to see him perform on the Giants, for the foreseeable future. I think that he has a lot of potential on this Giants team, and like I said, their defense has quite a few holes, so I mean, he can really establish himself and become a player that they really need. So I would love to see it, honestly. But that is my 5 for the Giants. So what do you guys think about my selections?
Bro, Brian Burns was low, man. That was, I don't know, at least to me, that, like, because they just traded and spent so much money. So to me, like, they trade a haul for him, and then they pay him as like a top 5 defensive end. I mean, that's the kind of money you give for a guy that you really, really want. So honestly, props, I guess, to them for getting that and not having to give a first rounder, because that, I don't know. And I know that those kinds of trades, historically, first rounders don't go for that, but I don't know. I feel like Brian Burns was just low. But I feel like overall, it wasn't too bad.
Who was your first pick again?
Who was our first pick? I think Chelsea's said that there's technical. Can you hold on? We just have technical difficulties. I think, I can't remember her first pick. I think the second one was Neighbors, right?
Yeah.
It might have been Dexter.
Was it? I know it was Dexter, Brian Burns, and then Isaiah, and then Simmons, and then I'm missing the last 2. Because I was gonna say something about the first one, but anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I know that Jalen Hyatt is, he's a controversial pick, but I have a feeling. I thought he was going to be good next year. He was not, or last year. I thought he was going to be good last year, and he really wasn't.
um
But I have a feeling.
well, I hope you have that feeling because I don't have that feeling. So
Jalen Hyatt. Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt is just it's interesting.
I
But
just have a feeling. I think he's going to break out.
He could, honestly. He really could. But Chris,
He
what were
was
you
good in
saying?
college.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he was good in college, but his last stats from last year is just not the best, and not
Yeah,
mean this
for
way,
sure.
but if a rookie doesn't do well, I mean, yes, he has a bad QB, but still, I mean, he had one fumble, 58 yards. I mean, he had 373 yards for the whole entire year, but I mean, it just doesn't impress me of like someone of like Amon Ra, or like a better wide receiver that had a great first year, like
Yeah, and I think Hyatt is at a disadvantage because of Daniel Jones, and I know that he still has Daniel Jones this year. But a lot of the reason that I took him is because I think that there's going to be pressure taken off of him as the wide receiver one with Neighbors there. I think Neighbors automatically slots in as the wide receiver one, and I think it's going to free Hyatt up to, perform admirably, not have the top corners on him, be able to maybe, run some short routes, get some catches going when the season first starts to establish himself.
All
maybe
right.
so.
Well, certainly last but certainly not least. Wait, no. We didn't do everybody's Giants players, did we? Oh my
No,
No,
gosh.
we did not.
no,
Okay,
we
I'm
didn't.
sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. I'll
So,
blow through these real fast.
okay, because I'm very excited
Obviously.
for our last team. I just,
Oh yeah, you're very excited. I bet
Chris's
so.
favorite.
Oh, I wish
And
I could.
wanted to add, if you guys are watching the live stream or listening to this after the fact, sorry if it sounded a bit confusing there for like 5 minutes. Something happened with our technology. I don't really know what happened, but we're back now.
yeah, we
It's
fixed it.
a
We're good.
it's a trial and error with learning how to stream, and we thought we had it, and then I couldn't hear anyone. So evidently, it's on me. So
Okay, no, you're
sorry.
good. It's okay.
No
We made it
worries.
through. But
I
Chris,
mean,
what you got
I'll
for
just
us?
blow right through. All right, number one, I'm taking Daniel Jones because I'm not risking it yet again on a QB. Yet again, I have no idea what the QB situation is. I mean, probably is their QBs are going to be limited, if not none, out there. By the way, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to take their veteran QB. So I'm taking Daniel Jones just in case for insurance. I'm gonna second one, Dexter Lawrence. Like, I mean, there's no words about it. I mean, he put pressure on it. I mean, he's a great player for their defense. Brian Burns is third. I mean, now stealing from the Panthers, I think he's going to be a great asset. And excuse me for butchering his name, but it's Kayvon
Thibodeau?
I
Thibodeau.
Thibodeau.
Thibodeau,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
think
whatever.
he is a great player. Yet again, yes, these are all majority are defensive players, but this defense, I think, has proven themselves as to be like, okay, we're here, and I think they're bolstering up their ranks. And these are also younger players. So if for a future franchise, I would pick these players to help. And then, I was looking at it. I didn't want to take Slayton. He's not very good. I don't want to risk it on a rookie
Dang.
because I don't know if he'll be good. So, you know who I picked? Who's a veteran, and also he was tied for 100% for extra points. You know who
Oh
was it?
no.
I knew it.
Graham Gano.
That's
I
right.
cannot.
That's based. Based.
You need a kicker, and I'm saying the golden toe. I mean, yet
I
again,
agree.
all I see right on this team are the Panthers.
Truly.
So that being
Facts.
said, Daniel Jones is on the Panthers essentially, just in New York. So that being said, that's my top five.
All right. You know what? Based.
Cool.
I'll go right into it with mine because there's some similarity there, and I think we'll have some overlapping talk. I got Brian Burns as one because you just traded like everything for him. So yeah, you want to keep him. Thibodeau, sorry. Kayvon is pretty good, not gonna lie. Dexter Lawrence is a baller too. I'm also gonna go with Neighbors because I mean you spent the 6th overall pick on him, so yeah, he better be good. But I actually think he'll help their room out a lot. And I know this is an extra player, but I think you keep Tommy DeVito as simply the man for the
Wow.
city. For the city, for
true.
the city, for the city. But
Wow.
that's a side character. That's a side quest. The main guy, I full on agree with you, is Graham Gano. I'm just saying,
I
game on the
can't.
line. Put the golden toe out there, and he will set you free. I'm just saying, man. Graham
Set you
Gano.
free. That is a high standard.
Look, man, when they've put him in the right position, he can play. So,
Would one
Chris,
call him a dog?
full on agree with you, Chris, on that.
I appreciate it. I mean, I was just looking at it, I was like, how can you not put him on your draft? Like, you got to have a kicker somehow.
Kickers are people too. That's what Pat McAfee says, right?
Exactly.
Hey, he's not wrong.
True. All right, now our last team, the one we've all been waiting for.
Dun da 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 da.
I still think it's one
Don't
of the
copyright
best.
me. Sorry, guys.
The best moment was doing the wheel and having Chris have it to explain why the Eagles would win the Super Bowl. I think God
That was
just
quite funny.
nailed
I'm not gonna lie.
It's
Terrible.
an iconic podcast moment.
It's
Wow.
absolutely terrible.
I will never forget that. That truly was iconic.
Yes, everyone, if you haven't seen it, go back. Please find it. Chris was first on the wheel, so it's early on. It was great. Anyways, guys, I will go straight into mine here. So, I got Saquon. You just traded for him. And he has betrayed the city of New York. I'm sorry, but there is no other way to really put it. Like, hear me out. Hear me out. I know when LeBron left Cleveland, Cleveland felt stabbed in the heart. But he didn't go to Boston. He didn't he didn't go to the team that, is a rival for him. I mean, you could say a conference rival, but I wouldn't say the Cavs and Heat were rivals. But Saquon, I mean, he went straight to the division rival. I mean, that's a low blow, not gonna lie. And then him
And
to
you
say
know
things
what's
like
you
he
know
likes
what's
it
funny
here.
about that? I saw a headline that apparently he accepted the Eagles' offer because it gave him $1 million more in guaranteed money versus the Giants one.
It's freaking hilarious. I mean, I won't. If someone offered me an extra million, I would be down. But for him, 1
But
million
I'm
is
saying that's like
nothing,
razor thin in the NFL. Like,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
normally it's like 5, 10, a lot more. But for it to be $1 million to go to their rival, that's just funny. Like, I can't help but laugh at that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other guy you gotta keep on is with Jalen Hurts, man. Like, love him or hate him, he got you to a Super Bowl. He's really dang good. We're gonna see how he is after this year because I do wonder, his offensive line may not be as good as it's been in the past. So I'm a little bit curious to know how that's gonna go. I feel like Jalen Hurts. I feel like for most of these good teams, like QB is the reason that they're good or like able to be competitive. So you got to keep him. I think Devontae Smith is actually very good. I'm going to put him up there as to keep because I know everyone loves to talk about AJ Brown. And part of it's because Jalen Hurts sees 3 guys on AJ Brown and says, "You know what? Bet I'll throw it to him." So when he does that, AJ Brown can make some incredible catches, but Devontae Smith is also really good. He's a speedster. He's got good hands. He's a guy that you want to keep. Younger guy. I'm also going to have Darius Slay. Look, Philly corners get cooked by the fans, not going to lie. Just ask James Bradbury, man. Oh my gosh, if we put him on the list, if one of y'all did, man, the city of Philly will have it out for you. Darius Slay is a baller, though. He is a good corner. I know he gets hated on, but let's be real. By the end of last year, nobody was trying. Offense, defense didn't matter. Troy Aikman said, like, truly, what was the difference between the Eagles and Panthers season? He said that on live TV. He said, what, they got to play one more game? I'm like, dang, Troy, all right. So, but Darius Slay is a baller. So just because he gets cooked sometimes, I don't think that's all on him. And I'm going to say he's going to have an even better year this year. And I think you got to keep him. And then to go along with the kickers, Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott is a clutch kicker. You got to keep him around, man. If you do not keep clutch kicker, what do you mean, man? If
man.
if you do not have clutch kickers, you will lose a lot of games. How many games come down to the tight end? Dallas Goedert is very good, don't get me wrong, but how many games have truly come down to him versus how many games came down to Jake Elliott's foot? I am just
Fair
saying.
point. I mean, he is a really good kicker.
I am just super Saiyan, bro. Anyways, that is my 5 for Philly. Thoughts?
Okay. Oh, let's compare him against my 5. So my 5, I have Jalen Hurts because I feel like it's the most obvious person to pick on this entire team. Like you're saying, Chris, regardless of if you love him or hate him, he is still really good. Does that mean that he still underperforms sometimes? Absolutely. Does it mean that he's still going to be the guy in 5 years? Maybe not. I mean, there are a lot of people that have their doubts about him. But for me, I would still keep him. Kind of going down the same wide receiver route, I would keep Brown over Smith. I know that Smith is younger, and I know that, he hasn't had, a lot of injuries and stuff. Relatively speaking, he's been pretty healthy. He's gotten injured a bit, but it hasn't been, catastrophic. But he is a stick. I just worry about him. Someone is going to blow him up one day on the field. They're going to hit him so hard, and he's just going to be out for a while. I just worry about him. So I would take A.J. Brown because he's more proven, and I think that he is a top 10 receiver in the league, unarguably. Maybe higher than that. I can't think of my list off the top of my head. 3, this might be a little controversial, kind of in the same vein of you, Chris, talking about wondering if their O-line is going to still be as good or not, especially with the retirement of Jason Kelce that just happened a couple of months ago. I'm going to keep Landon Dickerson because bro is a dog. He is really, really good. And he's young. He just signed a big contract. I would definitely keep him. He's really good. And then next one, 4, I'm going to keep Jordan Davis on the D-line. Let's be honest, they have so many skilled D linemen that it's hard to pick just one. But I'm going to pick Jordan Davis because he is a monstrously large human, and that scares me, so I'm going to keep him. And then 5th one, this is also probably going to be a little controversial. I'm going to keep Quinyon Mitchell because he and Cooper DeJean were steals in this draft. The fact that the Eagles got both of them is insane. Quinyon Mitchell is going to be super, super good, and I know he played at a small school, and I know he doesn't have any track experience in the league yet, but I think he's going to be really good, and he's young, he's just out of college. I would definitely keep him. So, some interesting ones on there, probably some ones people aren't expecting, especially, considering the fact that I did not keep Saquon. I just thought there were better options, but I mean, what do you guys think?
I'm noticing a lack of Jake Elliott content.
Oh, my apologies. He can be honorable mention.
I mean, don't get me wrong, but why didn't you put Devin White in?
I just thought there were better people.
Oh, I don't agree, but okay.
I thought you thought everyone on Philly's terrible, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't want to put Jalen Hurts because I think any QB can actually do well on the Eagles team. By the way, so
that's a spoiler.
Yeah.
Are you going straight?
I mean, Devin White is really good. I'm not going to deny that. I just didn't take him.
Interesting. It's definitely interesting. Wait, you didn't even pick Devontae Smith?
No, I picked A.J. Brown.
She said A.J. Brown over him. I do.
I think
I mean,
You
he
have
is
to
a
keep in
small
mind,
guy.
though, AJ Brown has been tormenting me for years as a part of the Titans. I know how good he is. I would keep him over Devontae. I'm sorry.
I guess that's fair. I just AJ Brown is
Bro
very good.
dominated on the Titans. The Titans are
Yes.
terrible.
Here's the thing. I'll say he's better as of right now, but
Yes.
also like Devontae Smith is also really good, and
No,
would
I
be
mean,
good.
there's no denying that. He is, for sure.
Huh.
That's just my personal preference.
That's
Like if I'm trying to draft a team and I'm trying to win right now, I'm taking AJ Brown.
that's crazy.
All right. Fair enough. Well, Chris, as the Eagles hater himself,
That's
who
crazy.
are the bright spots?
Does he even want
to
to keep any players on the Eagles? He doesn't like
I
any
thought
of
he
them.
would want to burn the franchise personally.
Wow, evidently not.
Well, it's more the fans.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
at least you clarified.
There's a difference. I mean, I think the players are good, but the fans, we'll just say they're not the best. I mean,
Fair
they
point.
taunt people. I mean, it's terrible.
Okay, but to be fair, every major sports team has fans that taunt people. I mean, this is not uncommon.
Except the Hornets. I mean,
that's
Fair
not a
point.
franchise. That's not a
Fair
franchise.
point.
That's not a franchise.
I take it
they
back.
don't exist.
That's not a franchise. But all right. I'm gonna go backwards. All right. Okay, we're gonna go from 5th on my list. All right, I'm gonna pick Jalen Carter. Like,
Mine were not in any particular order, by the way. It was just
That's okay.
who I'd keep.
Okay, my person I picked is Jalen Carter. I mean, he is a great young player, great player. Overall and just defensively. I mean, he played against the Chiefs really well. I mean, what more can you ask of him? Very strong, very always puts pressure on the QB. I think he has high potential. So I'm gonna pick him on number 5. My 4th one is Devontae Smith. Smith, I mean, he tears up. I mean, whenever AJ Brown is covered, Devontae Smith is just streaking down the field as fast as he can be, and Jalen Hurts just targets him, and it's just crazy how good his footwork is, how good his sort of just recognition as to when to be clutch, when to basically know where to snap, where to go on the field. And yes, it could be play calling, stuff like that, but like he is a young, talented player that has proven himself in different times, in different instances. So, I mean, what can I say? AJ Brown, he's in my 3rd. Yet again, great player. He definitely, if I had to throw to him, like right off the bat, like he'd be my one target. My second target would be Devontae Smith. I mean, they're just great wide receivers. Second,
They just pair off of each other really well. Devontae Smith had just over 1,000 yards last year, and AJ Brown had about 1,500. So, I mean, that's a crazy 1-2 punch. For your 2 to get 1,000 yards, I mean, that's crazy.
It is ridiculous. And then my second is Saquon Barkley. I mean, yes, I mean, he's playing on one of the worst teams out there that has one of the worst O lines. So like, yeah, one could say, oh well, you don't know. Well, if he gets hurt and stuff like that, but that's a guaranteed running back. I mean, look at the Eagles system, and so just like how the coach is, it could be, I know the O line is really good. I know that it shows potential, but Saquon Barkley, I mean, that's hard to come by. So first one, I'll be honest. If I would not take him, honestly. Jalen Hurts, he would be my number 1.
Wow.
But honestly, I thought of people that I could replace him. But
that's fair.
But I will say, like, I probably would have reordered this list to shift him down to the 5th, and then to the 5th, I probably would have picked Devin White, to be honest. But he's number 1, because I didn't realize, I forgot Devin White is on their team.
And you were giving me strife about not picking Devin White. He's not even on your list.
I mean, honestly, if I had to reorder it, Jalen Hurts wouldn't be on this list, by the way.
Oh.
Just because, and just don't get
Can't
me
take
wrong,
it back. You already put him on there.
but don't get me wrong. But like, I think any quarterback would be good in their system, like any quarterback. And don't get me wrong, but Hurts, his past year was rough. Like sometimes I was wondering, what are you doing? Like the game is literally in your clutches. Like you see the win, and it's like, why are you throwing it away? And so it's just like just a lot of questionable things. So
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick, I mean, that's the thing. Am I risking it? I probably wouldn't risk it, to be honest. I probably would say, hey, this is a QB that's proven himself. It's good. So, yeah, he's number one. I don't like it. I don't want it. But I think Jalen Hurts would be my number one if this was a potential reordered draft because he's a young player, he's good.
Now, I will say in defense of Jalen Hurts, they did lose both of their coordinators in the same offseason. And I mean, Sirianni, is still the head coach, but, the coach of the Colts now, I mean, he was their offensive coordinator, and, Hurts had a lot of success under him. And they lost him and their DC. So that didn't give him any favors. It didn't help Hurts at all. Now, does it excuse him? Obviously not. If you're one of the best, you still have to perform, regardless of who your coaches are. But it didn't not help him, is the point I'm making.
Okay, but Patrick Mahomes literally lost his offensive coach, and then now, let's just say if Jalen Hurts is getting compared to Patrick Mahomes or these other players are very good players, like he's underperforming badly.
But Patrick Mahomes is coached by arguably a top 3 head coach of all time.
Who they fired.
Hurts is not.
That is true.
So,
did fire him.
Yeah. So, if Mahomes didn't have Reed, would he have the degree of success that he has? I would say yes, because I think he's just really skilled. But, you can't, at least not acknowledge that he is being coached by arguably the second or third best head coach of all time.
Fair. I think
that is fair. But I will say, if Jalen Hurts, if he wants to say it's not me, that's the thing, because that's the thing. Most people are like, oh, this is his time. I understand Colin, his sort of view is staff doesn't mean much, right? And I think staff, they do have some input. They do have some input. But if it's affecting Jalen Hurts this much. Maybe
it's just you, bro.
I think it might just be him, because it's that's the thing. It's if you're not succeeding and you're yes, he's talented in certain ways, but there's decisions that he's just chucking it up there. And I understand you trust your wide receiver, you trust that they're going to be there, and you might be pressured, but it's there's so much more to it. There's so much more to just chucking it up there, make a decision, be decisive on it, So I think with that,
sure.
I think Jalen Hurts, he has a prove it year. This is the upcoming year to prove it and win it. And if that just shows to say it doesn't matter about the staff, it is me. And it's all me that I've been able to cultivate this team. And yes, he has some great O-line, he has some great wide receivers. And one could say that, oh well, it's Andy Reid, right? Well, Andy Reid also has 3 wide receivers that were just in and out. He only had 1 Rashee Rice, So it's if you compared it, if I had to pick one
that's true.
to win, I probably would pick the Eagles, to be honest, because they have the better team on paper, But they also have a better QB, So it's all about perspective.
I definitely agree with your point. Jalen Hurts has no excuses, right? He has 2 top 15, probably, if not top 20 wide receivers. He has an above average tight end. He has still a lot of good players on his O-line, even with Kelsey retiring. He has Saquon Barkley now. He has a good defense. He really doesn't have any excuses. If he plays average to slightly above average this year and doesn't play elite, I think that there are going to be a lot of rumblings about him. Because I agree with you. I think it's definitely a prove it year. On paper, their team should dominate.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. Because like what Jalen Hurts didn't he get injured? I believe he
He
got
did.
injured.
He
He
did,
did
yeah.
suffer some
then-
injuries last year.
And then who stepped in? I have to look back
Well,
at
no,
it
he
real
still
fast.
played.
But he
He
was
still played?
playing through stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
he
so
might
they-
not have
yeah.
the whole year, but I mean, when it mattered, he was playing through it.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I look forward to the comments below. If you disagree with us, comment down as to what
Oh,
players,
gosh.
top 5 players that you believe would be best fit to keep if there was a draft order for players in the NFL.
We have a lot of strong opinions about the Eagles and the Cowboys, evidently, and we're not even Eagles or Cowboys fans. So that is saying something.
They're just a very divisive set of franchises. That's all.
Chris, did you do yours for the Eagles?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that pretty much has wrapped us up. So, yeah, our first ever live stream here, guys. Wow, thank you, for listening. And Chelsea, do you want to just lead us in our outro?
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week, or not necessarily next week. Next time we post an episode, we'll post up a little calendar thing on our socials when we do our next one. But tune back in when it comes on for more content. We're going to continue to live stream. It should be fun and interactive with you guys. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at LaunchCodesFB and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at LaunchCodesFootball. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris W.
And I'm Chris P.
And we will see you next stream.
See ya.